Welcome back. I don't know what we're coming back to. I don't even know. I'm here and I don't even know. Books. Let's talk about books. I read books in October. This was my first month, maybe you'd call it, of me doing something like this. First time like collecting books and reading books for the purpose of thinking like, what can I talk about? And I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty proud of this month. It's been a very long time since I kind of just bought books for the pleasure of reading. May not love everything that I read that I'm about to share, but I'm still happy I did it. It was still a fun experience. I am so bad at exploring new media and getting out of my comfort zone in that sense. I don't know if it's in my anxiety. I don't know if it's my ADHD, but yeah, so I actually have notes for this, real thorough notes that I promise I'm going to try to follow to make this as enjoyable for someone watching as possible. I'm sorry, I'm very new to this, so I'm still working through the kinks of it. Apologies for any noise that gets caught in the background after editing. My family is downstairs. By family, my husband and a small child. Okay, so I'm going to do these starting from my least favorite read all the way to my favorite read. So to top this off, start it off, I should say, is the book A Thousand Steps into the Night by Tracy Chee. To give you a little bit of the synopsis, and I'll include a picture of this. In the realm of Awara, where gods, monsters, and humans exist side by side, Miyuko is an ordinary girl resigned to a safe, if uneventful, existence as an innkeeper's daughter. But when Miyuko is cursed and begins to transform into a demon with a deadly touch, she embarks on a quest to reverse the curse and return to her normal life. Aided by a thieving magpie spirit and continuously thwarted by a demon prince, Miyuko must outfox tricksters, escape demon hunters, and negotiate with feral gods if she wants to make it home again. But with her transformation comes power and freedom she has never even dreamed of, and she'll have to decide if saving her soul is worth trying to cram herself back into an ordinary life that no longer fits her, and perhaps never did. The site, this was this is generally advertised as like Studio Ghibli-esque. And when I read the synopsis of it, it reminded me of Princess Mononoke, my absolute favorite of Studio Ghibli movies, I'd say. Probably next to The Wind Rises. I know, contrast. So I had that kind of expectation going into this, and I have to say I was kind of let down for that. First of all, and I noticed this now when reading the synopsis, the style of writing made it very hard for me to get immersed. There was this overuse of commas within sentences that just really threw the pacing off. Again, reading that synopsis, that should have been probably a warning sign. And if you read like the what is it at the back of the author's biography or whatever, I see the same pattern here. So it's not, I think this is just how Stacey Chee writes. No offense to that, but it just really threw my pace off. Looking at it, the characters were pretty flat. Now that I've finished it, put it down, I realized the motivation of each was like, more told to us from a narrative perspective rather than shown. And so kind of at the end, where we started off with like 1 and 2, and then there was like maybe 4 or 5 people, I didn't care about any of them, and I thought they all blended together. I don't think there was much depth explored in that sense. The main character, Miyuko, I felt like she didn't really have an arc, but by the time we got to the end, she was just a person with different experiences. But she felt more or less the same as like who she was at the beginning. Story aspects that I thought would play out that just didn't, but there were elements that kept reoccurring. Like it's crucial to know that her mother left her and her father when she was young, just left them in the middle of the night. but we don't go anywhere with that emotionally. She doesn't do anything with it. So what did that do? Did that leave her bitter? Did that leave her resentful, sad? Is she carrying a feeling of no closure? Does she wish that she could run away too? Is she envious of her? These feelings about her are never evolve. So why they kept mentioning it? There was always mentioning of her mother, either like what she'd think about spirits or what she'd think about a situation. So I really thought like that meant like, oh, is she still thinking about her mother? Is she still upset about that? Or is the mother gonna come back? No, no, she doesn't. So it just, I didn't get it. It didn't add to Miyoko's character, and it really didn't like do much for me. It also, there's something that really kind of turned me off from this was there was a time travel element to this book that I really didn't expect. I'm not keen about it. It's not interesting. It wasn't done interesting. There was no like she went back to the past, so like events you'd see events at the beginning of the book, and there was no real like fun like aha moment or like connection or like it was kind of it seemed like it set itself up to be like a time paradox, but not an interesting one. I don't know that it didn't vibe with me, and something like that didn't necessarily scream like Ghibli-esque. A problem I had with an overarching theme, I'd say, with this book is there was a focus, not the focus, but it was supposed to take up a lot around this misogynistic aspects of the culture that the character is in and that the world she's in. We're told that women are seen as lesser, but we don't see that on page. Like, yes, there are instances where it happened, but not we don't see it happening like to her female relatives. We don't see her witnessing it elsewhere outside of her, and not that I'm saying like, oh, like if this is a misogynistic world, why are we? Well, I'm not trying to advocate for more misogyny. I'm just how it was. It just felt like again, it was told to us that this was a misogynistic world rather than shown to us through the actions. The father, her father, is not he loves his daughter and he doesn't seem to uphold some of these stricter rules around it. He's not violent with her, but so we don't get any like experience outside of him. So I think that just that would have emphasized the message that the book is now I see clearly trying to send, that she is a girl that doesn't fit in the world for a variety of reasons, and her being a woman definitely might be one. So again, that was not challenged. That was not. I did not see a compelling argument for it. Yeah, she doesn't interact with men or boys outside of her dad, so we have no frame of reference for how this misogyny shapes her existence, her experience, besides being told that does. So when she gets cursed by a demon walking home, you'd think that this was like I don't know. I feel like it should have been a more significant moment for her. Like oh, like there was no like presentation. There was no initial resentment of oh great now I'm a woman and a demon. Look that double hatred. And then she continues to learn from that. But no, I really don't feel like a lot changed even when after she was cursed. As long I guess as no one saw the curse, which showed up on her as like a blue mark, showed up on her as like indigo color that would just like consume her, so that she just eventually turned it. So when she's cursed by a demon, we think things are about to change for her, but nothing really does besides how she's treated by the priest in the beginning and the village where the 7 girls are murdered. I really felt like, based on what was not set up, that she was dealing with a misogynistic culture, she was dealing with being a demon. I felt like the village where the girls were being murdered should have been a character turning point for her. It should have been way more significant than how it was played out. For good or for bad, for better or for worse, and character development. There were no interesting arguments made or challenges presented to this idea. So, like, and it kind of bothers me now that I'm reminded of the synopsis, because that argument is absolutely never made there, or at least not strongly. There's never a point where she's like, "Hey, maybe it actually might be cool to be a demon," or like, "If I have to be a woman and a demon, I might as well take advantage of it. I might as well, play this fear against them." Nothing like that was interesting. Nothing like that was like ever even kind of mentioned. As soon as, and apparently, I guess all there is to being a demon is just killing people. Nothing else. Like no strong magic, no cool tricks, no shape shifting. It seemed like all there was just you kill people or you don't. If you do, you lose your humanity. So like every time she questioned like her transformation, it was immediately rejected. There is kind of no really doubt that she's gonna make the decision to kill someone. And of course, like how do I begin with that? I guess holding for me and this story, holding the strict sense of morality of not killing actually became tiresome rather than the character virtue. It more came off as this like moral superiority rather than a reaction to her environment, and that kind of pisses me off because the man in the village, as far as I can tell, he wasn't a demon, he wasn't possessed, he just didn't like women, and that's why he killed them. That's why he got his mom to help get rid of the evidence. Because he was a man, because the mom was subservient to him and she had to help him. So what bothers me about that is that, so he can have no moral, what did I say about this? So my problem with this was, and how I know and see the world as, not just that world, but this one, but women in a misogynistic society don't win by playing by the rules of misogyny, especially when men have no moral qualms in harming or killing a woman because she is a woman. So there was this moment where the murderer is literally about to kill her. If he can do it, he will. And she's like, she has the deadly touch. If she touches him, he can die. At no point does she accidentally do this? Does she like actually like fear for her life? And it kind of bothered me because she was using this moral superiority as an excuse not to do this. So again, this isn't adding to the argument of good versus evil, demons versus humans. Human men have are doing these things, and yet they don't lose their humanity, or like or so I don't understand what I don't get. I didn't If there was an argument to it, I didn't see the appeal to it. What's the argument here? Is all killing irredeemable? Are demons just bad? Is there no depth to being a demon? Is it just that they want to kill? So there's another part that's kind of complementary to this, is that there's a crane girl. She's a shapeshifter. She can transform into a crane, and her father is after her. And Miyoko, the main character, along with the demon prince, witnesses the father capture her as a bird, drags her back home to a hut in the woods, chains her up as a bird. So if she tries changing back, she would probably break her ankle. And even then, Miyoko's solution to that is just to scare the father away. Would her morals have remained if, said, the crane girl killed her father? If she had killed the father? I don't get it. Is really killing the worst thing that's happening here? Is that the pinnacle of it? I don't know. I'm sorry, I've gone on way too much about it already. That was the main element that kind of just really irked me. I thought characters like the snake demon lady and near the beginning, and the main villain, the demon prince, I thought they would challenge the main character's perception and ideas and start these conversations about what really is good versus evil, the moral grayness of being a demon. I felt like the villain didn't have to just be a villain. it could have been a parallel, how just because others perceive you as a demon doesn't mean that that's true, and that, mortals are equally possible to committing, atrocities committed by demons. Wouldn't have been more interesting to be treated better by for the main character to be treated better by a demon prince than by a common human man? I don't know. I was really hoping that that's what would happen with this, and it didn't. The book centers primarily around Miyoko and a sparrow shapeshifter, I think, named Geki. There was absolutely no emotional growth between them. That at least to enough to invest enough for the reader to invest in the friendship. Trust wasn't developed on page. We don't learn anything of value about Geki besides that he's just there and he likes to steal. We don't learn his motivation for really helping her besides the obvious of she helped him. And likewise, she also does not share much with Geki in a sense, at least not in moments together. If it was, I think it was just told, and that just again, by the time the book ended, I struggled to get through the last half of this. I was just waiting for it to be over. I just didn't care about anyone, and I thought everyone kind of blended in together. But yeah, let me know what you think. If I'm sorry if this is your favorite. That's just yeah. I don't think I'd read any more of this. Now, a little context for this, if I might add. I had this book when I was a young adult, teenager, maybe 10 or 12, barely there. And I remember I was obsessed with dragons, so I was really intrigued by the dragon cover. But I remember reading maybe the first chapter and then stopping and then forgetting about it and just got bored. Again, undiagnosed ADHD. Go figure. So I saw this in my local bookstore on sale for $7, a hardback copy, and I thought, okay, let's see what I missed out on. This is a piece of middle grade fiction, by the way. I don't think I'm going to read that much of it, but I had to get to the bottom of this one, and it's really cool. Oh, I already painted the sides of it, by the way. So, yep, a solid piece of middle grade fiction. I didn't love it, but I didn't dislike it at the same time. I think it gets the job done. The writing style was fluid, it was paced well. I was interested in finding out what happened next at the end of every chapter. There were some classic literary references used a couple times that kind of just went over my head, but it was few and in between, not enough, I think, to bog down the story, for sure. Because of the ending, and it's because of the ending, this isn't perhaps maybe rated higher. I know why some characters were not characterized, and it's for a very specific reason, which I thought kind of sucked because it would have made the story so much more interesting if characters were allowed to grow. Maybe I'll talk about that near the end of this. So one of my problems was with the female captain Avon, because right away the book tells me that she's supposed to be this amazing captain, but she didn't really do anything on page to show it, and it just this bothered me because there was very 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 few female characters in this. So the fact that she didn't get her spotlight or that she was rigged up to be something, it just kind of bothered me. I really thought it wouldn't have taken away from the story if she saved everyone's asses once or twice. It really wouldn't have. I feel like that would have perhaps validated some distaste she has for our main characters. There are three, by the way: John, Jack, and Charles. English, go figure. And it really wouldn't have hurt if she had been even as one of the few women characters, might I add, was allowed to save their asses right away. This would, I felt justified her distaste for them near the beginning, because right off the way she's very closed, she's distrustful, and there's not. I don't think she got a good reason to be, considering that this was the plan that she was involved in was made by her father. So again, I don't know why. And I do not know why she got so buddy buddy with Jack right away. That kind of bothered me. I thought they were about to paint him as like a womanizer, but that doesn't go anywhere either. So like right away she's like talking with him. I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. I don't think that really goes anywhere. Out of all of the characters, the main characters, I'd say I felt like John had the most expectations thrust on him in a very extraordinary set of circumstances. So I didn't get why he got so much shit from the other characters who knew just as much, if not less, than he did. Like, why is Avon and Jack so judgy when John admits that he's not fluent in a dead language that apparently he's supposed to know? From John's perspective in the book, the gravity of his education with the professor wasn't explicitly expressed. He didn't know his role until he got on board the Indigo Dragon, and especially after he was sent to the French trenches. So at least I, as the reader, could understand why. Of course, nobody would prioritize learning a dead, unused language with no real world application when you're in the middle of a world war. So, I also thought it really sucked that no one except Charles really empathized with John when he kind of had a moment of weakness, when he had flashbacks of his time in the trenches. I get that shell shock was absolutely not known during that time or understood, but to openly disregard a person's experience to their face when you barely know them to begin with just seemed really insensitive. It did not characterize them well, and they were already not, I felt like, on the way to being characterized well. My dislike for Avon and Jack kind of I'm just kind of focusing on the things I had problems with. So that's what I realized. Yeah. My dislike for them kind of continued. I feel like they were maybe perhaps the weakest parts of the book and the story for me, especially during the end battle when Jack pretty arrogantly starts improvising on the battlefield with homemade grenades. It was one thing when earlier in the book, he improvised a sweet maneuver on the Indigo Dragon, the ship, to avoid getting collided with by another ship. But I felt like it's another experience in and of itself entirely to mess with explosives when it's clearly been established that he has not been in any type of combat whatsoever. I can't help but partially blame Avon for Captain Nemo's death after she explicitly told him to completely trust Jack. After he has done very, very, very little to earn anybody's, let alone hers, complete and total trust. Again, this experience is pretty much the first time they've met, and again, besides that one thing that Jack did for Avon to save her ship before it eventually, by the way, gets destroyed. I don't see why she was so willing to put all of her cards in it. It also, Jack, it was not framed as like a teaching lesson for Jack. I felt like it really would have been the perfect time for him to have established some understanding with him and John, especially through John's experience in wartime. I thought if at all Jack had apologized for, like, making fun of his, like, background as a soldier, or like questioning his character on the battlefield, if he had apologized and had a conversation with him and said, I would have forgiven the rest of the whole book. I would have been like, oh, okay. And I would have been fine with it. I would have been great with it. Instead, I felt like he kind of made the whole situation and someone else's death about himself. So by the end, I think he was my least favorite. I didn't hate him, but I didn't like him that much. I can't remember. It's a long name. The Dragon Guardian Scholar dude. I felt like his involvement in the book was a little bit like a Deus Ex Machina, if you will, at some points, because he literally like swoops down and like gets rid of the main villain. But I thought he was so interesting too. So like I really didn't mind that he wrapped up loose ends. I was happy with it. Some of my favorite bits in the book were with Charles and the Badger Tumbler. He was really fun. He kept pronouncing scholars. It was really fun, really enjoyable. Now that I think about it, yeah, the story would have been a lot better if the Badger had been more involved. Just replace Jack with a Badger to a talking Badger, and I would have had no problems with it. I don't know if I should talk about the ending, because it's kind of a twist, if you will. Maybe take a look for yourself and tell me what you think. But I thought it was fun. You know, I really did. I thought it was fun. And I closed the book satisfied with the story. A nice touch to this book, by the way, and maybe why you'd want to pick it up on hardcover, is they have illustrations in there, I think done by the author himself. So honestly, these like just having a copy for your bookshelf is honestly really cool. Yeah. So I'm not huge, like crazy into fantasy, but I really liked that. Number 3, incidentally also a 3-star review. The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sulin Tan. This is another kind of middle ground book for me. I didn't fall in love with it like I was expecting to, though. The cover art is absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, I'm like a magpie in that sense. I would collect books for their cover art. So I'm disappointed that the story did not enchant me as well. I felt like the plot was a little oversimplified at sometimes, when they could have been made more complicated for the sake of less predictability. I was hoping, as we're going along, and like I would see these events coming and be like, oh, hopefully they're gonna prove me wrong, and they didn't. So that was kind of disappointing. I was really hoping, there was instances where like we're following Xinyan, the daughter of the moon goddess, as she's working to try to earn her mother's freedom from the moon. So like I really wished her time at like the Golden Lotus Mansion. I wish that had been an opportunity for her to navigate social politics amongst nobility, since it was made clear that she was raised separately from it. So that way, when she is invited to study at the Jade Palace, it presented a new type of challenge that we saw her prepare for. And then when it's only when she's there, she realizes the Jade Palace is not as simple as the Gold Lotus Mansion, and so to make herself noticeable or to earn the Emperor's favor, she decides to master the bow like her father did. Instead, I felt like that time there was just really kind of set up to make me feel bad for her and to meet the prince, who's the love interest. But I was not completely sold with it. Also, when she completes her tenure as like the prince's assistant or study buddy or whatever, why does she get special treatment when supposedly enlisting in the army? Is anybody allowed to just join the army and choose their assignments? I feel like there's just no way of the royal army, of the emperor, mind you, doesn't demand like complete and utter obedience. I feel like once you join the emperor's army, you are not in a power to negotiate. It's not like she was like super amazing, incredible at the bow, and even if she was, I feel like the only value that she would have to the emperor or anyone serving the emperor would be her ability to be obedient, which could have been a challenge for her. Could have been against her personal nature. All right, the prince. The Prince Li Wei, I believe, he felt a little too perfect to me at times. I feel like there's no way a person with parents like he does he has doesn't grow out without some type of prejudice, without a good reason. Like, usually there's like an opposing force already in someone's life to counteract that, but we don't really see it. He didn't have any faults to outgrow or evolve. From Jinyan's perspective, we did not get a chance to see that and see him evolve, so that we see her fall in love with him. Other than that, he's handsome, he's charming, he's smart, that kind of thing. I felt like she should have harbored way more distrust for him especially as soon as she found out he was the prince. She should have distrusted immediately, because all she's ever heard of the royal family is bad things, and that doesn't really seem to carry. I felt like doubt whether or not they were going to get together or whether the prince liked her should have been milked more. He confesses his love, and there's still like 300 pages left of this book. So I'm like, okay, well, what's gonna happen? The magic of the confession kind of like fell through for me. I thought it was sweet. I thought it was cute. This wasn't a bad romance, but I felt like some things could have played out a little better. So unless the sequel, which I do plan to read, plays some major drama, I'm not gonna buy any attempt of believing that this book's trying to tell me that maybe they don't get together. If I'm surprised, I'll be happy. Let me say that. I felt like there were some complications in the book that wrapped up a little too easily. Like, there's absolutely no way in a frosty hell that the prince's parents would have let him called off an arranged marriage. Feelings have nothing to do with a political marriage. Him telling the fiance, what's her name, that they shouldn't marry because he's not in love with her, should have made things more complicated. Should have stirred the pot rather than resolved it. If the emperor and empress are really so powerful, I need to feel it. I need to feel like they have an iron grasp over everything, including their son's life. For God's sake, they imprisoned someone on the moon. Like, there's no way just the crown prince, even if he's an only child, could have more sway than the emperor or empress's will. I feel like the fiance, the princess, way too understanding. How Unless the Li lied about his experience with her, there's no way I feel like she would have taken it well. I felt like an opportunity was lost in the Enchanted Forest, that there should have been a parallel between Li Wei's arranged marriage and his father's arranged marriage to his mother, when his father was in love with the flower noble lady. Just to really emphasize again how unbreakable the emperor's will is. That would also humanize the emperor. That would give us an opportunity, us as the reader, as it should have been established that the emperor is an iron fortress. Like, he himself, he's an unshakable power head. This should have been a peek into our opportunity to see him humanized, at least a little bit. That way, Xinyan's fight with the flower noble lady would have been more impactful, as the older woman could have been a reflection of her future if she chose to love Li Wei. That could have caused her to have doubt and wow, I don't know if this is worth it. What if I become bitter and resentful and that kind of thing? But that's just I guess that's just my opinion on ways that could have been made more interesting. I was not fooled for a second by this love triangle. And again, I think if you know, there's when a woman's deciding between two men, that's not a love triangle. At least as I picked up on, the guys were never really into each other. I actually kind of got tired. I remember in a couple of chapters, rolling my eyes when one or both of them kept showing up for her and accompanying her to do things. I think a lot more should have been shown her doing stuff on her own, because that's what she's used to. And then it's her trying to get maybe comfortable with the idea of companionship. But I think the scene where she gets the dragon pearls after the emperor tells her to, it would have been so much more impactful if she had gone either by herself or with that other female soldier that was her friend. Like, I wasn't surprised when one of the love triangle dudes betrays. It turns out to be actually part of the villainy in this. I kind of saw that coming, and I was hoping it wasn't going to happen, but again, I was kind of disappointed in that sense. So I felt like when he takes her, when what is it, Wang Ji takes Jingying away after she has the dragon pearls, and Li Wei is the only one to witness it. I was like, he's the crown prince. Of course, anyone's gonna believe him once he tells him what he saw. Either Wenji should have killed the prince, or he should never have allowed, like, the prince. He should have argued for him to not come along whatsoever. I felt like that was a very stupid idea, very poorly thought out, but on the captain's part. I've no doubt the disgraced love interest, former love interest, if even, is gonna make an appearance in the second book. I bet like, I can totally see how the facade of she still might be kind of into him, or that their past is going to influence her judgment. I'm going to make that call right now. Just me, I don't know. But to me, it already seems like she's going to go for the prince. How things have set up, again, unless I'm surprised, and I will report back on this, if there is a major twist in the second book, I have no doubt that she and the prince are going to get together. I actually thought Wing Shi should have probably just died in this book. Just wrap it up. Just cut that. Like, I'm not really excited to see where that goes out, but whatever. Alright, I've already still, yet again, talked too much about it. Let's wrap this up on my shortest notes. The last book that I read was Iron Widow by Shirin J. Zhao. Favorite book. 4.5 stars. Easy. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. By the way, I'm kind of like obsessing over it. I'm a fan of Chiran's videos on YouTube. I think they're very funny. So I had like seen their work before that, so I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, oh, am I gonna read this and is it gonna be disappointing? No, not at all. I devoured this book. Took 3 days, but I could have easily, if if I didn't have a family and had more time, I should say, I could have easily devoured this in one day, and still wanted more. The only reason it is not 5 stars is because I craved so much more political intrigue from this. But I hear that's what the sequel is all about, so I'm excited for that. It was I actually made the mistake because this Iron Widow came in the same package that Thousand Steps did, and I started reading them at the same time. The difference kind of in quality of writing in terms of like the pacing and the characters' voices really pulled the favor away from it. So it did not do A Thousand Steps any favor. It's a nuanced experience having a female main character who actually makes unconventional choices. See, my problem with Thousand Steps was that the main character, was held back by I feel like an unreasonable moral code. Satan is not burdened by such things. She didn't hold herself to any type of strict morality, because honestly, she recognized that the world around her didn't as well. I felt like this book understood that women ultimately don't win by playing the game of misogyny. You only get to win if you rip its head off. I know this is described as like an angry female character book, and honestly, if you read it and then you pick up on the parallels between like modern society and the scenarios that happen here, her anger feels like it's very justified because she's born in a world where her only options, not even made by her, are to be subjugated as someone's concubine or wife, or killed as a concubine pilot. And like, you have to understand that's a terrifying reality to live in, to be born just to be forgotten. And there was a sense of vulnerability that you got with this main character, that she was also scared of having like this fate that just she didn't ask for, and that she was just forced to have. I felt like if anyone's argument for this is that some of these scenarios, besides being a fantasy book, may seem unrealistic, I would highly suggest that you pay attention to the world outside of predominantly white countries, because this kind of oppression on women still happens. And I thought the commentary was excellent. A little on the main character, some of the main characters, the male characters, Yang Ji's characterization felt very refreshing, because he did not act as like an opposite to Zaytam. Instead, he was a real motivator. He was every bad decision she kind of wanted. You know, if anyone else would probably consider them bad decisions, he was right there supporting her, and god damn it, I loved it. It might seem like there were sometimes I was questioning whether that was possible or not. Like, oh, is he just being kind of like a little too perfect? But when I started thinking, like, if you're one of 27 sons, I don't think that includes daughters, it's very easy for any one of them to turn radical in this sense. And then I thought Shinmin was a great example of how misogynistic societies, or at least male-dominant societies, can easily turn on one of their own, especially if they've been socially labeled as a criminal or as a foreigner, an outsider. Men need to realize that even if a system is made for them, it is just as capable of turning against them the moment they defy convention or bite the hand that feeds them. Also, I gotta say, this book is probably the only book I've read so far that accurately applies the true meaning of a love triangle. It acknowledges that, and god damn it, throws all its weight behind it, and I love it. Love it so much. Pre-ordered the sequel so fast, like the moment I put the book down. Yeah, so that was a really high note to end on. Great one. Some lows, some highs, but I have rambled way too much. I'm so sorry. Even with my notes, I can tell I rambled. I'm so sorry. I will try to get better at that. These are kind of like my therapy, I suppose, in terms of talking and try to organize my brain, especially when I'm not medicated right now. I had to temporarily stop. So that's it. That's all I have to say. Next one will probably be the November TBR, but thanks for listening to my rambles. Thanks for tuning in, or not, whichever works for you. And yeah.